Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coding with WESPY. My name is WESPY, and today we are going to be talking about OOP, classes and objects. This is a very large concept. In fact, it is a totally different paradigm of programming that exists. For instance, we could do just a simple def statement, such as when we were doing our functions, sum, func, and it takes in x, and it's gonna, return x plus x, like that, okay, like nothing crazy. And then we can call sum func, and we're gonna pass 4, and actually we're gonna print sum func, okay, just like that, okay, and it returns 8. Relatively simple, makes sense. It's what we would call this right here, though, is a procedural approach. We make our code reusable, but there's no object that's being defined here. With Python, though, you have to understand everything is an object, okay? Everything in Python is a class, okay? There's nothing that exists in Python that does not come from a class of some sort, okay? We did this the other day, but let's do this again just to kind of hammer this home, okay? That range function that we use is a class, the range class in the module built-ins, okay? So when we call that function, we are actually using a method or a function of a class, okay? So this essentially allows us as Python developers to define our own classes, and that's what we're about to do, okay? So also remember that everything in Python is object. Okay, that has to be something that you can understand, and to understand that, we're going to actually make our own objects, so that way you get it. So make sure you hit that bell notification, you subscribe, you like, let me know if you love it in the comments, and let's dig on into this. So as you'll notice right here, also we need to add one more keyword, which is class, okay? So let's go ahead and define our class. Now, you may have noticed as well that over here we have some output, and this is going to be our plan. Okay, we have our name of our file, and we're going to want to be able to import our class person, so that way later on we can define our own object right here as Matilda, and we want to be able to add Matilda to our program. Okay, so that's the plan here. Okay, so we're going to define a person. We're going to create our own data type. Okay, we're going to create something that we can actually manipulate effectively. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to call the init double under init or dunder method. Okay, and so this, to set up a class, this is required. You cannot possibly define a class without doing this, okay? So, and the simplest class would be this, okay? This would be like it. Like you wouldn't even have to do anything actually. You know, you could technically run this and it would work. Okay? Like well, let's do any something. We'll do self dot self dot something self dot self. This is kind of stupid, but this would work, I guess. We'll do that real quick. This is kind of a stupid example, okay? So we're not going to use this example. I'm going to give you a much more practical example, but this is the baseline syntax of defining a class, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to give this some parameters, some requirements. You'll notice over here, this has 3 requirements. It has a name, and the output is a person with a height of 75. There's that 75, and a weight of 120. So we want to be able to put Matilda, create a Matilda object of our person class, okay? So this self parameter is a self-reference, which will pass through our entire object, through our entire class. What it essentially says is that it is referring to this method, this dunder method, which is saying that we're going to initialize our field variables or our parameter or our properties, okay? So let's check this out. Let's first add a name, let's add a height, and let's add a weight. Okay, so those are our parameters. Okay, so we have 3 parameters. When we instantiate our object, okay, once we call this thing and we actually create a new instance of the object based on the parameters and we pass the correct arguments, we will get a new object. Okay, so just stick with me here. It's going to be a little bit, but you'll get it. So what we're doing is this self dot name equals name. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a new property or a new field variable of this class, okay, of the person. We're giving our class our person some information that you can actually define, okay? So self dot height equals heigt, and so again we're referencing these. We're saying this property, which we're referencing here, self, okay, we're passing it through the entire project or through the entire class, okay, and we're saying height equals height. We're referencing these parameters, which are now becoming properties, okay, that we can use. So self dot weight equals weight. All right, so now we have our simple little it's not a constructor actually. All this does, and if you're like a Java developer or something like this may kind of look like a constructor. However, it's not. What this is doing is this is literally initializing the variables. It's making them so that they're able to be used throughout the entire program. So again, we can run this thing, right? We can run this and it works. So now let's, you know what, before we do anything, let's go ahead and create a person. Okay, we're going to create a new person and we're going to instantiate our object. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're instantiating. That's what this is. You're literally creating a new instance of this object. You're creating a new copy of this exact class. We're taking what's here and we're going to make it so that it works. Okay, so we're going to call person. Okay, and as you know, we have 3 parameters that have to be filled. Self does not have to be filled. So if it was just self, we could put just like this, and that would be it. But since we have more, we need to be able to do that. So we're gonna get our Matilda. We're gonna get her right in there. And let's see, she has a height of 75. So we're gonna put 75. And she has a weight of 120. Okay, fair enough. And we're gonna run it. And let's see what happens. Oop. And of course we just hit F5 and no issues, right? And let's go ahead and print person 1. Okay, so in theory this should print out just like that, and that's it. And end of this video, but it doesn't. That's a problem. Okay? That's a problem because this doesn't really tell us anything. This tells us the location in memory, tells us it's a person object, and that this is the file. That doesn't really, like, that doesn't give us this output. That doesn't give us something we can work with. Okay, there's not really much there. Let's maybe if we do this, maybe that'll work. But again, all that does is give us a representation. So again, just that's it. That's not a lot. So what we need to do in order to get something, to get some information that's more than just a location and memory, we need to define some things. Okay, and that's what we're about to do.